I'm drinking whiskey, I know nothing can go wrong. When I'm drinking whiskey, only time my mind is strong. When I got my bottle is when I'm standing tall. 'Cause when I'm drinking whiskey, I don't feel nothing at all. Oh, when I'm good and drunken, can't nobody bring me down. I like to drink my whiskey when nobody is around. I know my empty bottle's the only one that understands that when I'm drinking whiskey, I forget the man I am. Whiskey, my hands don't ever shake. When I'm drinking whiskey, I don't lie in bed awake. 'Cause when I got my bottle, I don't care if I'm alive. 'Cause when I'm drinking whiskey, I ain't afraid to die. 'Cause when I'm drinking whiskey, I ain't afraid to die. You couldn't believe nothing set in stone. Anything could change the way you see by what is known. For when the light shines bright on the right side, you're left blind to the blight that the shadow hides. But what is your perspective?
There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the infinity gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Ayrton. How are you doing today, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. Wasn't expecting to do a show a couple hours ago, but I'm always down.
I mean, that's what I don't pay you for, but we're doing a show today because we're joined by a very special guest in the virtual studio today. Oh, what?
If people think that I should be paid, donate to the Streamlabs down below.
Well, I can neither.
What's going on?
I can neither confirm nor deny that. But as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, we are joined by a very special guest in the virtual studio today, Mr. Wenger. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be here.
I've been better, but it costs more. Is usually the response I give. But the producer came to me today and he was like, "Hey, would you want to get Wenger on the show?" And I was like, I think I invited him on like August of last year. And if you can get him on, that'd be great. And he was like, "What if I can get him on tonight?" I was like, "Well, it's kind of short notice 4 hours ago, but sure, why not?" So here we are.
He told me, like, the way he was saying it, it sounded like what he was saying was that you stream every Friday night. And that he messaged me.
It used to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But, I have a wife and 3 children and a full-time job.
Fridays.
Well, it used to be every Friday. But it hasn't been in a while.
Like 6 months ago.
Shut up! Well, don't remind me of my shortcomings.
I got his message like seconds after my plans fell through, so I didn't have anything to do tonight, and I was like, "Oh well, I mean, there's this." And I'm a guy that just kind of goes with. Yeah, I'm a guy that just kind of goes with the flow, you know.
Well, we definitely appreciate it. I love having creators on the show, and you've come off the back of a highly successful book called Super Harem, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, me and Joe Ball, the team of Wenger and Ball.
That's right. That's right. You need a second ball on another part of the book, maybe lettering. That way you can have Wenger and Balls.
Yeah, well, we have Adam AF. Is there any kind of innuendo you can do with Adam?
I mean, you know, Wenger, Balls, and A.
Adam AF is our editor.
What do you call that thing between the dick and the asshole? Oh, the coffee table.
Well, I would say taint. I know some people would say gooch. Well, what do you say taint or gooch?
Here in the great state of Arkansas, we say taint, sir.
I like the word taint. It's a funny word. Gooch is a funny word, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Taint just sounds awkward. Taint's a way better word.
It rolls off the tongue.
We will eventually talk about comic books tonight, folks.
That, and you know, if you're getting some head, you can say to her like, "Hey, why don't you go down there and paint the taint?" And you got a nice little rhyme right there.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Already
paint the taint.
That's 9 minutes into the show, folks. 9.
Yeah. If this was my show, this would be when Adam posts his plug-in Battle Brick Road.
How about that hit 10 grand in day one?
Every time things get derailed on my show, he always plugs Eric Weathers.
Well, Eric Weathers is a god among men, so that makes sense. I'm pretty sure Eric Weathers went back in time went back in time and got my mother pregnant. So, you know. But he's comic Jesus.
Apparently so
being
did a bunch of 12-year-olds on Xbox.
Well, he's he's comic Jesus in quarantine. He hasn't had a haircut. His hair is just getting long. He has like the scruffy goatee. He is comic Jesus. So.
Yeah, maybe he just spoke to your mother and she became pregnant.
I mean, he probably just looked at her. He probably didn't even have to open his mouth. He lettered a comic next to her and she got pregnant. Speaking of getting pregnant, though.
You know, it's weird. The same thing happened to me.
That's right.
Is Eric Weathers all our dad?
Including Ayrton's child. Now, I have Super Harem here. Let me get that pulled up. Why is it saying the stream's starting soon? The stream's already started. But I have
doesn't say that on my end.
I have Super Harem here. And let me get that pulled up. But speaking of getting pregnant, the premise behind this book is you have a character whose superpower is whenever he has sex with a woman, she temporarily gains superpowers.
Yeah, he has magic jizz. And whenever
Go ahead.
Whenever that he makes love to a lady, she gets charged with so much power. And then the downside to that, though, is that it comes from hell. And sometimes when you use that power, it summons a giant monster. So Tim was in love with Sophie, who was the love of his life. And when she realized that it was actually her that was summoning the monsters that she fought, she had taken on this superhero identity called the Valkyrie. But when she realizes that she was summoning these monsters, she had a mental breakdown And so things have been really weird for Tim. And he ends up hooking up with this crazy chick at a party named Journey. And she is enthused with the idea of fighting these giant monsters. So it's like a complete opposite situation. And now he can't get rid of her. And that's where the story starts.
Is this an allegory for the Hulk?
Well, see, my one question is, what were you on when you thought of this?
I think it's kind of like the feelings of despair, really, that males have in our modern society. How that you're like masculinity is kind of demonized, and there's almost like when you're a young man and you don't have a lot of confidence, that there's almost like this fear of a relationship with the woman. And I think that's where it really came from. Is that when I was younger, I married really young, and I went through a really bad divorce not too long after that. And that's I think that kind of subconsciously created Super Harem.
Well, way to take my joke question and make it really heavy.
But it's a really fun comic. But I want people to know that it's not just this silly premise, that there's like deeper elements to it.
Well, I mean,
I actually really like that.
I was gonna say one of the things we do besides host creators and interview people, we like to review weird stuff that we find in the world of comics, and Sex Criminals came up on our radar, so we reviewed volume 1 of Sex Criminals, and I really think that it's interesting in the post Comic Code Authority that we're starting to explore themes of superpowers and intimacy and sexual relationships as a cohesive element, and it's not as taboo and just like forbidden or censored as it would be, and it's also not vulgar. Because I mean, obviously there are some parts of Super Harem that are going to be kind of quote unquote vulgar to some people, but it's not pornography. If if that makes sense.
Everybody that actually reads it is surprised at how tasteful it actually is, because we never actually show any sex. It's all implied.
Right.
It's really there's plenty of big titties, which
okay.
I mean, comics, they need more of that, really. That's what the problem is. We just don't have enough titties. That's why I created hashtag make titties big again.
Ayrton also created the hashtag, if you want to tell him about that, Ayrton.
Oh, yes. It's hashtag make women in comics sexy again.
See, but
we're definitely doing plenty of that.
I think make titties big again has a bigger ring to it. I think we need to switch over and jump on that bandwagon.
I'm sticking with mine. I like it.
Well, we need to at least add that one to the thread.
Hard to say. Oh,
yeah, you can use multiple hashtags.
Shut up.
So, you got
don't even start, church.
You're the writer on the book. Joe Ball did the art, and it says here your colors are by Farah Nurmaliza.
Nurmaliza, yeah.
Okay.
She's, I believe, in the Philippines, but she does great work. It's like mind-blowing, the colors that she does.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. And I see that there's only one tier available on your book. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your book has already fulfilled its main backer goal, and you're just basically in demand as a store at this point, right?
Yeah, we've been in demand for a long time, and we actually did a very successful alt cover recently, and it was awesome. Like, the support that we got for that, I was so happy. I mean, CG is great, isn't it?
It is.
But,
it makes me proud to be a comic fan again. In an era where Marvel and DC just want you to feel bad for being a white man, CG makes you happy to be a comics fan.
Yeah, and that's the feeling that like I was saying, I think that subconsciously spawned Super Harem, and you'll probably feel that when you read it.
I see the Cecil cameo here. You got Cecil at the bar.
Yeah, actually had to go back and tell Joe to add that in because he didn't draw him there originally. And I was like, dude, you got to have Cecil in the background somewhere. What are you doing? That's like a comic skate tradition.
Cecil just has to show up.
Yeah, you got to put him in there somewhere.
Now, I do like the scene where it looks like his frat buddy and this chick are just getting him stupid drunk, and it's just like, here, have a beer, homie. Take this shot, homie.
Yeah,
Don't be gay, homie.
and Joe illustrated that so awesome. Like you can see him getting drunker at every drink that he has.
Yeah.
Like the way that Joe drew it. And I'll tell you, anti CG likes to try to troll me, you know. And they took that page and was passing it around out of context, trying to say that it was like badly drawn. And I was like, you guys are idiots because that page is awesome in the context of the comic. Because if you actually know what's going on, like the storytelling is brilliant, and that was all Joe Ball.
Man, Church, I didn't know you modeled for Yogi.
What now?
Sorry, I was drinking whiskey. That you're like the frat buddy.
Oh no, I'm just the drunk one. This is the most sober I've been in 3 years.
Oh well, you might want to work on that.
I know. I need to take some shots.
Enjoy your liver while you have one. I've already whiskeyed mine away.
No, don't worry about it. I cloned myself like 6 months ago. I just drag him around with me for spare organs.
Oh well, that's a pretty good idea.
So, right now, oh yeah, there you go. There's some beautifully drawn, big titted women there. That's the cover, I believe, or a pinup. No, that's the pinup by Karl Rowe.
Are you saying, yeah, that pinup? When we first started promoting, it's been over a year ago now. But I told Carl, I said, I want you to make something that is going to like just trigger the shit out of every SJW that sees it. And this was our original marketing strategy was to just like use SJWs against themselves. And it worked so well.
It's
like
fantastic.
I put that and Infamous put it everywhere. Gail Simone put it everywhere. Like they were so mad that even existed.
Publicity.
Yeah, they made me famous for real, and I've actually got in the book. There is a special thanks to Lauren Cooper.
Oh, fantastic! Oh man. I hate that raccoon-infested cunt, but that's just me.
Well, I appreciate her promoting me for free.
Oh, absolutely! Thank you,
That's
thank
fair.
you, Miss Renfamous. We'll unbeat you later. But
Yeah.
Do you have plans for a sequel to Super Harem?
Well, I definitely am going to make another book because this one ends in a cliffhanger.
Okay.
And I had planned on ending it too, but I've actually got some ideas since people have been so into it to make it more of a series. So I was thinking maybe it might be fun. Like I'm just throwing this out here, so it's not necessarily going to happen. There's maybe for a second issue is because the main character that has these powers is kind of like a pussy, you know.
Right.
So like he's not going around like making super babes all over town. But what if his buddy is like this douchebag if he got this power somehow? Like it would be a totally different dynamic.
Well, you wanted to know the first thing I thought when I saw this concept is what happens when he gets one of them pregnant.
Well, we don't go into that much detail about it.
Right, but I mean
But that could be really bad if you're imbuing people with magical sperm from hell, and then it creates a baby. That's liable to be like Damien or something.
Yeah, the Antichrist. Yeah, basically. So you can keep that.
That
That's
would
free.
definitely be a bad.
I won't even charge you royalties if you write that into the book.
Yes, he will.
So usually when we get creators on, obviously we go through the campaign. If you look in the description down below, you'll find a link to where you can still pick up a copy of Super Harem and a pinup for $25 plus shipping. 380 claimed, over $23,000, only $115 away from $24,000. I think.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we're well over 30K if you add in the alternate cover also.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about this here particular book. I'm thinking that you need another $1,115 because this particular campaign needs to be a solid 25. That's a good number. So I want to invite anybody that sees this to check this link out and purchase your copy of Super. In fact, purchase two. You need two because you're going to read one.
Why should we stop? Yeah. Why should we stop at 25K? Like, why not make it $1 zillion?
I'm trying to be realistic and excitement. And then shut the fuck up, Ayrton. We're done. We're not going there. There's not going to be any of those cookie questions on this show. Damn it. Anyway, no, I'm trying to be realistic and enthusiastic here. Don't put me on the spot, man.
Think $1 zillion is unrealistic. Okay, $1 trillion. Let's get to $1 trillion.
Okay, let's get it to $1 trillion, folks. That's only like
I'll lower my
9 more zeros.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Tonight, even, before the show ends.
Yeah.
But once we go through that, again, check the link in the description below. You can also follow Wenger on Twitter via the description below. But I have a series of questions that kind of lead to some interesting discussion that I like to ask creators when I get them cornered on the show. And the first one being, what actually got you into comic books in the first place? Like either when you were a kid or, were you a young adult?
Well, I've always loved drawing, so that's always been something that I was interested in. And I was a kid in the 90s, whenever the Image was big and everything. And you could go into the grocery store and Spawn was right there on the spinner rack. Right. So you would go in there and you'd have your lunch money or whatever, and that was just something that you did. It was normal.
Right.
It's not like it is. What's so weird is now superheroes are bigger than they've ever been, and no, you can't get comics. It's so weird to me. But when I was a kid, they were everywhere. You would just it was an impulse buy. You went in and Spawn or Spider-Man or whatever was looking badass on a cover, and you just grabbed it.
Yeah, either at the grocery store or the drugstore, or when your grandfather went to pick up a newspaper in the morning at the newsstand. Like you couldn't go a full day without seeing a comic book if you left your house. But
it was just a normal thing.
So you mentioned Spawn and you talked about the 90s. Were those some of the titles you got into early on?
Yeah, I was a super normie comic book fan, so it was all like Todd McFarlane stuff and Rob Liefeld, what everybody was reading.
Okay.
And, that's something that Zach talks about a lot, is that there really aren't comics for normies. Everything is this weirdo stuff And you really have to have like a broad demographic if something's going to be everywhere like it was back then. That's what he's made Jawbreaker something that is almost generic, not in a bad way, but it just in the way that it's something that anybody can relate to.
Right, it's kind of adaptive almost.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
Hello?
Hi.
What's going
hi,
on?
Danny.
What's up, Danny?
Hey, sorry I'm late to the call. I had some stuff to attend to. I meant to be on at 10, but life happens. How's it going, fellas?
What was his name?
Who?
Ayrton made a
Stuff
bad
you
joke.
attend to. What was his name?
Oh, his name was Chad. We had a lovely night at the Olive Garden, and then we went ice skating.
Who paid?
You must be in Michigan then if you're going ice skating this time of year.
An ice rink, Ayrton? Are you an idiot?
It fucking snowed here today. Don't judge me.
You're dumb. You're dumb, and I'll judge you all I want. Anyway, how's our guest? I actually have a question. Because I mostly know you from Twitter, so I never actually got a correct pronunciation on your name. Is it Wenger or Wenger?
You can say whatever you want, baby.
I'm comfortable saying Wenger. I've always said Wenger.
Yeah, that's fine.
But anyway, what did I intrude on? I'm sorry for derailing the show, but it's kind of my thing.
We were talking about spinner racks. Everybody, when I'm on Ethan's show, they always like the way I say that. They put in the chat spinner rack.
We were also talking about titties.
Yeah.
Titties.
Hashtag make titties big again.
So
that's why Carlo Rowe is making titties bigger while Marvel is making them smaller. He's making them bigger.
By the way, speaking of big old titties, you know how everybody was all paranoid about like when the Final Fantasy VII remake was coming out, and they're like, Tifa's boobs aren't going to be big. They're making Tifa's boobs small. Well, let me tell you, I'm playing that game, and her boobs are ridiculous.
What about that game you can increase?
Supposed to be.
What about that game you can increase the boob and penis size on?
That's Cyberpunk.
We don't play those types of games.
Oh, I'm gonna play the shit out of Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be running around with the biggest, fucking weirdest androgynous mutant you've ever seen. I'm gonna make Renfamous, except it's a Cyclops with a big old wiener.
That's basically Count Dankula's
Stop telling us about your
well.
sex dreams, Denny. God damn
it. But
I'm sorry. I'm about 5 bourbons deep and in a good mood. So
we were talking about spinner racks. We were talking about being able to actually find comic books when we were younger. Around how old are you, Wenger?
I'm 38.
Okay, so you're a young man like myself. You're not an old fossil or anything like that. I don't
know. I think that late 30s, early 40s is a weird time when you're not really young anymore, but you're not old. So what do you call that? I don't know.
I mean, the best.
You're just kind of there.
Yeah.
It's the in between time of actually being. Oh, did Denny just leave? What the fuck? Oh, there he is. God damn it!
He's back.
I cut out for a second.
But
was somebody trying to talk to me?
No, I'm 33,
no, we were
and you and I grew up in that golden era of comic books when it was the 90s. Variant covers were just becoming a thing. You could still get a comic book for around $2-3. Sometimes even less than $2.
That's a huge problem. Is that it's just so expensive to get a floppy. I don't know why they have to use that expensive paper. Peter Samedi has the right idea. If they would take floppies back to newsprint, I think they would sell a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
You can ask
I was
Ayrton.
actually just going through. Well, I was actually just going through some of my old comic books back before they used like all the super glossed paper and everything. Back when it was more like it wasn't exactly newsprint, but it was like raw paper. It didn't have like the gloss over it, and it was like, yeah, this is like what a comic book should feel like in your hand, and like you just kind of don't get that anymore. I think Peter Samedi has the right idea, not only for a price point, but for the look and feel of a comic.
Well, what about when you take an old newsprint comic out and just you smell it? Like there's something comforting in just the way it smells.
Yeah, it smells like a library book or something.
Man, no joke. But no, what I was getting at is, anybody over the age of 30 can remember when comics were much more abundant, when you could actually find them in places that you just can't now. And one of the main problems.
Well, I would even.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I would even extend that down to the age of 25 because I mean that's around my age range. I don't want to give myself a age dox here, but I mean back when I started buying comics regularly, they were $2.99 was the price point, but like there were still like good classic stories coming out. Like I got into it right around the Titans reboot where like they brought Raven back. I can't remember the name of that run.
But the question is, where were you buying your comic books from? Because what I was saying is, you could find
from
a comic
local
book in
comic book shop.
No, see, you could find comic books in a grocery store and a drugstore when we were kids.
I think I was right. I think when I was a young child, there were still like you could buy them in like 3-packs wrapped in plastic.
And like a Walmart or whatever.
With like all the. Yeah, like with all the tabloids and stuff, there would be like National Enquirer and like and then there would be like a 3-pack.
Yeah.
But that did kind of phase out. But I'm old enough to remember that.
But
I also remember spinner racks at like drugstores.
Yeah, but that was the goal. Was if you wanted to catch a full series, you had to convince your dad to go back to CVS every fucking week. And and spend $3 or $4 just to get you that full 3-issue series of Spider-Man and the Green Goblin or whatever it was. Whereas nowadays you've got pull list, but that pull list for 3 comic books is going to run you fucking $15. And what I was kind of getting to is my main point is in today's day and age, with $15 in a place you can buy comic books. You're not only buying comic books, but you're buying you're buying sports cards, you're buying trading cards, you're buying memorabilia, you're buying graphic novels,
Funkos,
figurines,
Funkos, action figures.
I have kind of a funny anecdote that's tangentially related. If you'll allow me to sidetrack for a second again.
No,
it's funny.
Do it.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
So, like you were talking about like, oh, you got to convince your dad to drive you back to CVS every week so you can get the new if you're trying to complete a series. I was really into Pokemon as a kid, and every week I would do chores so I would have an allowance, but that allowance would just be spent on Pokemon cards. So every week it was like a struggle getting my dad to go and like get me $10 worth of Pokemon cards.
Well, that's why you had to start gambling your lunch money at elementary school, like a degenerate.
One time it was like my birthday, and I got like $30 from like my grandparents, and I asked my dad to get me $30 worth of Pokemon cards, and he went to Walmart and he got Pokemon cards, but they were like not like the Pokemon cards you could use to battle. They were like these weird like promotional like Pokedex like info cards on
like Pokemon. Like actual trading cards and not trading card game. Like they were actually like
they were
cardboard cards.
Yeah, do you remember like in Arby's when you were a kid and you would get the kids meal at Arby's and it would give you like like 3 cards that had like a lion, a rhino, and a giraffe on them and like with stats. That's what it was like, but with Pokemon. But it was not like the trading card game.
These
and my
kids
dad
are
bought me
talking like they don't
$30
remember. These kids are talking like they don't remember like National Geographic and fucking Zoo Books, son.
Yeah, they were like Zoo Books cards actually, I think, at the Arby's. But anyway, he bought me $30 worth of these, and I like
you were
I
devastated.
knew they were wrong. So yeah, I was like, oh shit, what do I do? Do I even risk bringing this up? Like, is this worth it? Is this worth having to explain?
This is what you should have done. You should have just took a magic marker and wrote like HP and shit on them. And you go to the Pokemon. You go to the Pokemon tournament and use that, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And you're like, "Hey, these are legit."
If I was more clever, that's what I would have done.
And then you know, because you're a little kid, right? You just start crying, and they just let you do it.
No, see, I knew enough not to go bother my dad with this again, but I also understood that there were $30 worth of legitimate Pokemon cards, like on the line here. These are useless cards, and not only are they useless cards, but I could have $30 worth of actual cards here. So like I got up the nerve and I went up to my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, these are not like the normal Pokemon cards. They're like different. They're not like the kind that I collect." And immediately, just like from 0 to 50, this dude is like, "Are you telling me that I bought $30 worth of useless Pokemon cards?" And I was like, No, they're good. I'll use them. I'll find a way." And I just like backed out of the room. But that's something that stays with me to this day.
Oh, I'm sure.
That weird, useless series of Pokemon cards they came out with that were just like National Geographic sheets. And I curse the Pokemon company for it every day.
Because you might not see a nipple like you would flipping through a National Geographic.
But anyway.
He talking
love nipple. If you're into those lone titties, that's where you want to go.
That's right.
When you're 13 and have dial-up internet, you'll look at a long titty bitch.
Sears catalog, National Geographic. What even is this show anymore?
I once heard a rumor that a lot of the Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh cards that like had girls on them, like had nudity on them. And me and my friend must have spent like 3 hours one afternoon on his basic internet trying to look up Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
So you saw 6 of them?
Yeah, and the stupid part is we could have just looked up actual boobs, but we were busy looking up the Yu-Gi-Oh card version of fictional boobs.
Well, if you were on the internet now, you could just go to like DeviantArt and see Yu-Gi-Oh characters naked.
Kaiba, Yugi, you can see all their boobs.
That's not even a problem.
Yeah, you can see Kaiba with a giant dick just giving it to Yugi.
If you look hard enough, you could find Joey Wheeler with boobs.
I hate everything about everything right now.
With the right search, you could probably look up a drawing of Alex Jones.
I disavow this entire dream. I disavow everything that's happening.
It's oddly enough that happens every time I join.
That I disavow everything? Yes.
So were you real? It sounds like your dad was mean. It sounds like you were scared of him.
How dare you?
Get out of here, Greta. Go talk to China.
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 No.
I'm sorry, Wonder. She just busts in every now and then.
I know exactly what Greta's like. She's such a cunt.
I don't think you're allowed to call a teenager a cunt.
She could be 18 by now. It's fine. She was 17 a couple months ago.
I don't know. I don't even know that she's real. She looks like a Dr. Seuss drawing.
I'm pretty sure she is 18 now, but what is weird is she looks like she's 11.
Yeah, well,
she does.
Again.
She looks weird.
And there's people sexualizing her, and I'm like, I think you guys might be pedos.
She looks like one of the Who's
There's
down
people
in
that
Blueville.
sexualize her? Wait,
yes.
Wait. Back up.
Dude, don't go to 4chan.
Yeah,
That's all I'm telling you. Dude, don't go to 4chan. don't do it. Definitely don't go to 8chan or 9chan. None of the chans. Go nowhere.
I'm just gonna not go on the internet for a few days after that one.
I mean, think about your search history. Greta Thunberg sexualized. Do you really want to search for that?
Well, there was a guy on 4chan that made a Greta Thunberg sex bot, and he said he was going to read it. Yeah, he said he was going to read it out on Craigslist.
Yeah, that was that made its rounds around Twitter. Actually, that image floated around Twitter for a little while.
If you type in anything Greta Thunberg and sex related, you got to put quotation marks around it that say research. That's the only way.
I already do that for all my porn. That's not going to work.
Show up at your house.
But anyway, if we want to get back into comics a little bit, I did have a couple questions
to
ask.
You want to get the train back on the tracks now? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, I can reel this train in. I can derail it. I can build a
Please, by all means, I'd love to see this.
What are you talking about?
So anyway, what would you, if you had to attribute like a ground zero to where you thought like the mainstream comic book industry went off the tracks, pun intended?
Good question.
Like, where do you think, like, what would you say it is? What would you say is like the point where it was like, okay, and now we can't fix this. Now it's gone down the way where like movements like Comicsgate will have to be born and independent creators will have to start standing up. Like, where did that happen for you specifically?
Well, you guys have been around the whole time, right? That CG's been going on.
Yeah.
So originally, like, everybody thought that we could be like, hey, look, Marvel, you're not doing what your customers want. This is what we want. And if we would just buy stuff that we want, you remember #move the needle. It's like we can eventually sway the industry where we want it to be.
But Diamond made that impossible.
Cebulski got in. Yeah, CB got in, and people thought, okay, this is going to be the change. He's going to clean house. But that, of course, that didn't happen.
Well, that's because Infamous was under the desk giving him a
hundred. You look at what Disney's doing just in general, like not just with comics, and they really don't care how much money they lose. It's so weird. Like, they're so dedicated to this secular religion of social justice that they're going to drive their whole company into the ground before they reverse course. They're just not going to stop.
That's exact. I agree completely. It's like they can't. They're too caught up in admitting that they weren't wrong. That admitting that this path they went down wasn't the wrong way to go. So they're just going ahead with it full bore, regardless of everybody saying this isn't what we want. This isn't what we're going to buy. Look, we're not buying it. We're not buying it. You're losing money. We're not buying it.
Yeah.
But they just keep doing
no one likes
it.
Captain Marvel.
Progressive leftists in general are like that. Like, the worst thing that could ever happen is them to have to admit that they were wrong. Like, you see them even now with this beer virus. Like, they're losing their minds on Twitter trying to not admit that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was. And they're like actually wishing people would die.
Did you just call it a beer
Well,
virus?
That's what Raging Golden Eagle says.
I thought that's what he said.
Well, it's weird because if you say the real name of it, YouTube censors you.
Well, it's kind of given them a perfect out because it doesn't have to be their failure. Now it's the coronavirus that's affecting us, and this is why we're going out of business. But like, to anybody with a brain that's been watching this, it's been happening for a while. Like,
well, let me.
So are you saying that Marvel and DC released the beer virus?
Let me expand on before we get too far off the rails.
Towers.
Hey!
Their 5G towers.
God damn it, Denny!
Virus. I'm just connecting the dots, Church.
So
you can't stop the conspiracy train.
I will kick you off the goddamn show. Let me get a goddamn thought in. To expand on what he was saying, he's right, because it's not just comics and SJWisms that they seem to have one foot firmly planted in the ground, trying to hoist the flag for.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
All right, Alex, you're fired. But no, I want to point out that I shouldn't have. But it's not just the fact that they're destroying comic books. They also have one foot planted firmly in the ground on this live action remake thing that they're doing. Even after every live action remake just does worse and worse and worse. Like we don't want live action remakes of animated favorites like Aladdin, Lion King, Mulan. We don't want live action remakes.
What that comes down to is really that there's just no merit in Hollywood anymore, is what that comes down to. They can't have an original idea because they're on their like 5th generation of complete incest. They're just hiring their friends or their like girlfriend or their daughter or whatever, and there's no merit. It's just whoever they know.
Well, I have a little bit of a different perspective on it. I think I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think that it's a reluctance to be wrong. We made this decision. We went ahead with it, and we cannot be wrong. This is successful, and as long as there is a drop of money, as long as there is even a cent of profit to be squeezed out of it, they're going to keep doing it. As long as people keep rewarding them by seeing their shit or buying their garbage and saying, yeah, we want this, as long as they can keep making money off of it, they're going to call it a success. They're going to say people like this because they cannot stand the idea that they did something people don't like. That's the insistence of including like strong female leads just insistently in every fucking comic book. Like, there's nothing wrong with a strong female. Rogue is awesome. Storm is awesome. Catwoman's awesome. There's a lot of strong women in comics that people love. We don't need to arbitrarily force them into every leadership position ever. It's not what people want. It's not good writing. It's lazy. It's clumsy. It's pandering. People don't want it, but they cannot be wrong. And as long as somebody's going to pay for it, they're going to keep putting it out.
You mean as long as Tumblr keeps paying for it?
Well, but they're still people. Their money's as good as anybody's.
Corporate
entity, it doesn't care.
All the weird Tumblr people are on Twitter now. That's what's making Twitter start to suck.
Yeah, well, Tumblr's dying. Is not already dead.
Yeah,
they can't like post porn on there anymore or something like that, right?
Oh, so now they're all on Twitter spreading their weirdness.
Yeah.
That's what Twitter needed. More furries. Furries and fucking Hot Topic ham beasts.
But you kind of raise the point there when you say that Hollywood, kind of dying out because of the incestuous nature and the lack of imagination and whatnot. Because Donald Olay has been on a tirade today about an Image comic that's basically just a TV show pitch. And it almost feels like Hollywood needs comic books for ideas, and comic books don't exist in their own medium anymore. They're a vessel for a pilot or a pitch or something like that.
Yeah,
Give
Well,
us the adolescent
it
radioactive
feels
black belt hamsters TV show.
Let
Need it.
let the guest
It
get in
feels
first,
cheap.
guys. Let the guest get in.
all I
This-
gotta say is it feels cheap.
This is something that I talk about a lot. Is the people who are making comics in the mainstream, they're not making it out of love of comics. They're making it because they want to get a show on Netflix or whatever. And you're
Yeah.
never going to make something great if you don't love the medium that you're in. That's impossible. You have to love the medium that you're in. You can't use it as a stepping stone to something else.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's not a springboard. You should. This has always been my point. You should get into comics because you like to get into comics. You like comics. You respect the medium. Too many people that get into comics see it as a stepping stone or a springboard or a way to take a stand for their side of the issue. I'm a girl and I'm in comics. Okay, well, do you fucking like comics?
You
Because
have to
that's
have
the most
that
important thing.
You have to have that
I'll drink to
genetic.
that.
You have to have that genetic ability, almost like Joe Hill does, being Stephen King's kid. You have to have that already just inherent ability and just spurginess to be good at what you do before you can come in and everything
I
you
wouldn't
write
call it
ends up
genetic.
cocaine.
I don't think
he
don't
looks
think you
just
have to
like
be a
his dad
legacy
and he
to-
writes
to
better
get
than
into
his dad.
comics. Well, maybe, but you don't have to
So
be a
is it
legacy to get into
genetic or
comics.
cocaine? That still doesn't answer my question.
Both. The cocaine is genetic. But the point
I
is,
would say that there is.
you have to have a
something
raw
in
talent,
your
a
natural
natural
talent, but
talent.
you have to have a raw. Yeah, exactly.
To come in to draw and write.
Well,
Like Joe Hill
and a
comes in and
passion.
everything he writes actually makes halfway decent TV. Nosferatu was kind of a flop,
Well, you have to.
but Lock and Key was good.
You also have to. You also have to have a passion, though. Like you have to have a passion for the medium, for wanting
yeah.
to do it. Like Neil Gaiman, right? He's a novelist, but he also writes really good comic books. Like, and he clearly likes and understands the medium. It's clearly like a big influence on like his experience into
We
fiction
try not
and
to
sci-fi. And
we try not to talk about Neil Gaiman because he's the one that's the reason that the Spawn movie is complete and utter bullshit.
yeah, I know. Neil Gaiman has his faults, but I'm just saying he does write good comic books, and he's also a novelist. But he has an understanding for the medium. Like it takes more than just a raw talent. It also takes somebody that actually wants to make a comic book.
Neil Gaiman's being canceled now. Did you know that?
Sorry, what was that?
He's getting canceled now.
Oh, is
he getting canceled for what? What'd he do?
This is the most ridiculous thing you're ever going to hear. This is why Neil Gaiman's getting canceled. Because he talked to a black lady and he said he liked her writing and he described it as Lovecraftian.
What is that about? What?
Well, Lovecraft.
Now, wait a minute, Neil.
Look,
Lovecraft, like everybody that was alive in his time, was very racist. So by describing a black lady's writing as Lovecraftian, that's clearly racist.
Oh, of course it is.
What?
Yeah.
Remember? I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember when like the Queen's like sister wore a pin of a black lady to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's like wedding, and it was like she's racist.
Wait,
the
Queen has a sister?
It was like her sister or her cousin or her like half sister or some shit. But it
Ruth
was
Bader Ginsburg or her body double or somebody.
It was somebody that was like in the royal family, but not like in the royal family. Like they had royal blood, they had like estates and
real quick.
Crown.
Has anybody seen Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the Queen in the same room before?
Well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead.
Ginsburg in a room.
Yeah, she's dead.
They both look like the Vulture from Spider-Man.
I was gonna say they both look like Darth Sidious.
Yeah. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Kim Jong Un are chilling in hell right now.
Oh, I've got another question. This isn't specifically for Wenger, but this is for the panel. What do you think about the idea of like redoing
Diller's
Magneto's
in the
Holocaust?
chat. Sorry.
What do you think about the idea of rebooting Magneto's Holocaust like history with him being like a black guy from the civil rights era? Like, because they're talking about doing that because the Holocaust was like 100 years ago. So for Magneto to be around now, feasibly, he'd be like ancient. So like, it doesn't make sense. So like, they're thinking of making him like
they're
a
gonna
black
make
guy
him.
from the
They're
civil
gonna
rights
make him
era.
Joe Biden.
What do you guys think?
They're gonna make him the king of the blacks.
Well,
What makes more sense though, like changing his character completely, or saying he's a mutant, so we don't know how long he can live? That's what they did to Wolverine.
Well, I was gonna say I don't think it's like the most agreed. Like I don't like the idea of replacing
No,
white
it's
characters
stupid.
with black
It's
characters.
lazy.
I think it's unoriginal and lazy. But I do think like in the specific case of Magneto, if they're trying to launch like new reboots of that, new like current expressions of that, like the character can only be so old. So like I get the idea of doing that. I don't think it's done with the intent of replacing a white character. I think it's actually done with the intent of giving him a backstory that makes sense. So I kind of understand that.
Disagree.
Do you get what I mean?
Why can't he just have like an extended lifespan? Because he's a mutant and he's super powerful anyway.
Yeah, mutants
Well,
just
that's
kind of live
actually a
forever
good
because
point, Wenger.
Krakoa. The end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying the current continuity, the Krakoan plants or whatever extend their lifespan. So
okay, well
Magneto
that's actually a fair point that I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
They could just write in some bullshit for how he has an extended lifespan.
Magneto's one of the most powerful beings on Earth. Like, why would he?
Wolverine has an extended lifespan, so why couldn't Magneto? I don't know. That's actually a good point that I didn't consider.
I mean, Batman's what, 90 years old now?
Yeah, but they kind of misty
Batman
on like what
Batman
actual
would be
period Batman's from.
Batman would be 130 years old now if you went from his first appearance in Detective 27, because he was already a grown Batman.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is they thought about this for Scrooge McDuck, so they figured that out, how that he was a prospector in the Klondike and he's still alive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know why they can't do that for Magneto if they can do it for a cartoon duck.
Did they ever really address like how like Bruce Wayne was running around with Jay Garrett and like Alan Scott, like Green Lantern, and like doing like all that shit like way back when, but now like Jay Garrett and Alan Scott are like old men and Bruce Wayne is still like a young man. Did they ever like really touch upon that or explain that?
Earth 2.
Like, I know Superman has an extended lifespan. I know there's different Earths, but what?
Old Batman with the Justice Society.
Place?
No. Old Batman from the Justice Society was Earth 2. New Batman from New 52 is Earth 1. And that's the Batman that actually keeps getting younger every 10 years.
Okay, but what about the Batman from Hush? Like, what Batman is that?
An out of continuity Batman, same as Batman from The Killing Joke.
Hush is not in continuity?
No. Well, technically now it is, but it wasn't when it was written.
Okay, so it's in continuity now. So what Batman is that?
Earth 1. But it's an Earth 1 Batman before Darkseid killed him and he came back 20 years younger.
Okay. All right, this is dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like this. This is hurting my head. It's hurting my soul.
Comics.
Well, this is kind of this is the core of what I was talking about on the last show where we had a discussion panel, and I was just talking about how comic books are dying because you're not retconning them for a newer audience. You're retconning them to keep the characters that the adult audience that is still buying your bullshit interested. You're not trying to grab a new audience. Well, you're not trying to expand your market to people that actually read comics.
being able to stick to one fucking reboot would also be nice. Like, let's not do one every 2 to 4 years.
Every 15 years, you
I
need a
think
reboot.
the reboot's got to stop. Like, people don't know where to start. This is what I think, is that I think that something that's cool about American comics is how you get, like, you have these legacy characters, and then you get new creators on them, and they have a completely different vision of what that character is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we didn't spend so much time on continuity and just enjoyed the story and the characters, that we could explore that more, and that could really be what makes American comics great. Is to just like have fun with the story that we've got at the time.
Well, you might actually appreciate this then, because I've actually plotted out how we can fix the mainstream comic industry, whole cloth from the ground up. Whenever a new writer and a new artist or whatever come in, whenever a new creative team comes in, you have them create their own characters and market those books. And if they prove themselves as storytellers and artists, then maybe that team or a combination of people from those teams gets once annually 6-issue miniseries of Superman that's collected in a trade and sold as a 6-issue miniseries, instead of having an ongoing Superman title for 1,000 fucking issues.
And if they don't
make a story at a time.
Yeah.
And if they don't prove themselves, guess what they get?
Fired.
That's the trebuchet.
I really like the trebuchet.
That's the trebuchet.
Me and Ayrton, the trebuchet bros.
Fuck yeah.
The one thing you two agree on.
Tom Kane definitely belongs in a trebuchet.
He does. He does. The only thing
I built a trebuchet once when I was a child.
I had another question for Wenger, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead. We're winding down now, by the way. So just everybody, heads up.
Yeah. How has being involved with Comicsgate changed the way you're viewed? I assume that you've been interested in comic books your whole life. You've probably been commentating on Twitter for longer than you've been associated with Comicsgate. So, how has being an independent creator associated with Comicsgate, how has that maybe influenced the way people treat you online, or the way that you view the work ethic or the mindset behind making a product?
Well, I have been doing indie comics for many years, actually. I published my first comic in 2007, so I've been around for a while. But before Comicsgate, before Comicsgate even happened, I came out publicly that I was going to vote for the current president, and I lost all my old friends.
Trump train,
so I didn't. I kind of had to start all over again, and that's what brought me to Twitter, really.
Would you say that Comicsgate has been a boon on what you do, though? Has it had a positive? I mean, since you've been releasing books since 2007, would you say since you've begun to work with Comicsgate, you've seen a more positive reception or more negative?
I was never monetarily successful until now. I had a fan base, but it wasn't something that I could pay my bills with. So it's definitely completely different in that aspect.
Well, that's all I got. I don't got any questions. you answered.
Way to be prepared, Denny.
No,
I asked some good questions there.
He did. He asked a good question and a couple of other questions.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, this is better than what I do. This is better than what I do with my guests. Like, I let them talk about their book for a little while, and then I show them some video of a furry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I
No, we just torment our guests with the soundboard occasionally. But no, I've been a comic fan for 30 years. I've got some questions about
Yeah.
comic books. Like if we were going for the full 2 hours, like we would on a normal show. And by the way, I would love to have you back at a later time. This has been absolutely fantastic. But
yeah, sorry I booked you for Friday when we actually don't technically do a show. That was a
Yeah, they were telling me that. They were telling me that after I was already here.
and now
So
I want to be fair.
That's my fault.
I didn't announce that to the audience. Denny just told on himself.
No,
there.
I did. That's my fault. I was booking Wenger.
I had Denny's back
for,
because I appreciate the producer.
I believe that our shows were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I was wrong about that. For the first time in my life, I was wrong about something, so I do have to apologize.
Well, look, everything happens for a reason, Denny. Like I said, my plans were canceled seconds before I saw your message. This was meant to be. It was the will of the Lord.
It was.
So
saith the church.
It was the will of the bourbon, because I was sipping on bourbon earlier, and I was thinking, who would be good to get on the show? Wenger would be good to get on the show. I should message Wenger.
But
I'll give you this, Denny. I love your accent, Wenger. I could keep listening to you talk all night.
Appreciate you.
Actually,
be sure and catch my show sometime.
Well, I'm actually gonna DM you after the show. We got to get you on for your own personal segment on our show, where you just read passages from a phone book for 15 minutes at the time.
We have a custom URL for my YouTube channel, so if you just go to wayncast.com, it'll automatically redirect to whatever's the latest live stream.
Okay. I like it.
Fantastic. Ooh, Denny, Dillard's calling you out in the chat.
SJW Diversity Hire.
Dillard. Yeah, he's calling you an SJW Diversity Hire.
Anyway,
while SJW, why is that?
While Denny and Dillard handle it in the chat, Denny.
And hired a retarded kid.
I'll have you know, who is it in the chat calling me out?
Dillard
Draws.
Well,
Dillard, how dare you, Dillard? I respected you. I like you, Dillard. Why are you dissing me?
Look at his messages, though. He's just in there calling everybody SJWs.
Dillard, why?
If everybody is an SJW, nobody is.
I'll have you know, Dillard, I'm a producer of this show, and I care very deeply about comic books and conservative beliefs.
But anyway, while Denny melts down completely, Mr. Wenger, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about Super Harem and comics. Do you have anything you want to leave the people with, or anything else you want to plug before you go?
Yeah, just wingcast.com, go sub to my channel. It's a lot of fun.
That's WENG.
Yeah, CAST. Very easy. Wingcast.com. All one word.
In the description as well. Ladies and gentlemen, check the links out below. You can follow Wenger on Twitter. You can follow him on his website. You can catch his latest live streams, and hopefully we can have you back and in the very near future, because this has been utterly fantastic. Denny, do you have anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, Dillard, I would like you to message me sometime. We can talk about this. I'm willing to forgive.
If it goes to blood sports, I want it on this channel. Ayrton, have you got anything, buddy?
Good night.
Dillard, you pull out that knife, and I am going to take it from you and cut you, Dillard. Don't you test me, Dillard.
Denny has snowflake ego equals SJW incel. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to get the fuck out.